Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Zelda Cast, another show that talks about Zelda. I'm your host, Avi, and today I'm joined with my two co-hosts, the brave boy ZacksQuest and the wise guy Kenlair.
Hello, hello.
I'm a very brave boy.
Very brave boy. Not brave enough for this, huh?
You know what? We'll see. We'll see.
All right, so this is episode. What would you guys say? 0, 1 of
0.5.
I was going to say
Yeah,
0.5.
Let's
0.5.
go. We don't need the number scale for this.
Yeah, this is just the introductory episode, the pilot, if you will, to this new thing that we're doing. Run more or less out of the basement of the Comma Squad server. This is actually going to go on the side channel that we're going to have made for the Comma Squad too. Just so it doesn't crowd everything up.
Understandable. I find that very wise as the wise guy myself.
I think that's a very brave decision. Just putting that in there.
I'm glad you guys like your nicknames.
Thank you.
All right, so let's kick this off. Today we are going to be talking a little bit about ourselves, introducing ourselves, our whole experience with Zelda, and yeah, we're just going to have a grand old time.
I
Who
like
should we
it.
start with?
Well, what did your outline say that we definitely did not type up 5 minutes before recording?
Oh yeah, we're professionals. We did this days in advance. So
This was planned.
mention of it.
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. It just says talk about yourself, a bunch of scribbles, Zelda. Okay.
You know what? That'll carry us through the whole season. That's it. That's
We can
perfect.
decipher those scribbles as we go.
There we go. Okay. You know what, Zach? Let's start with you.
Okay. Well, you know what? Fair enough. I am, you know what? I will be a brave boy as I am, and I will admit that of the three of us, I am the one with the least experience playing through the Zelda games. But at the same time, Zelda was the first handheld game that I've ever played. I played Oracle of Ages as a little kid on my Game Boy Advanced.
Very nice. Very nice.
And I didn't have like a Nintendo. I didn't have like a Nintendo console for many years. So other than Oracle of Ages, which I played through, I don't know how many times as a kid, my only other experience was like playing Link whenever I would go to someone's house and they had like Smash Brothers.
Yeah, very enough.
And then I got a Wii, and then I played Twilight Princess, and then I went back and I played the original Zelda, and then Ocarina of Time, and Spirit Tracks, which, you know what, is solid, very solid.
Yes, the bastard son of the portable Zelda experiences.
Four Swords, Breath of the Wild, and wouldn't you know it, that actually is about it. Anything else I know about Zelda is because I look at the lore like religiously. So everything else is secondhand information gotten from the old tomes of the internet. And then of course, like any child growing up on the internet, also was exposed to all the CDI memes.
Absolutely, yes.
Currently,
Not a true fan if you haven't seen the CDI memes.
Oh, absolutely. Funnily enough, I do play Link in a different Kami Squad production, the Zelda Sprite comic, and
that is very true.
I'm not afraid to say that my version of Link's voice is pretty much a wholesale, shameless inspiration. I guess it shamelessly takes inspiration from ZDI Link. Which
definitely the wish.com version of Jeffrey Raff.
Oh yeah, wish.com right here. There's no shame in it.
Oh, not at all, not at all. I'm actually having a lot of fun working on the like the different editing things, and like I'm actually putting together a custom intro for the project itself.
Oh,
Yeah, I saw
really?
the.
Starting to be starting to get a little, difficult, I guess, in a way, because I gotta start learning Photoshop to get like proper like high, not really high resolution, I guess, but like good sprite rips for the intro, because I don't want it to look like shit, you know.
Yeah, you gotta use old sprite comic methods to adapt the sprite comics. That's how you do it.
Exactly, and I've been working alongside Mario Panaghetti, the original creator of the Zelda sprite comic, in order to make it too.
Oh,
But
oh yeah,
we're
that was Mario, right?
yeah,
Yep.
Mario in the server.
Gotcha. I've been so busy. I saw him, but I did, I think I saw once that like he replied to something like, "Oh, is that the creator?"
Yeah, that is the creator of Zelda sprite comic. But we will talk about that at a later date. We need to continue going on through this sort of self-interview, if you will. You said that Oracle of Ages was your first Zelda game. What's your favorite Zelda game? Zach?
It's a correct answer here. He's afraid.
I'm
He
not.
knows
I'm
I'm
not
judging.
afraid. You know what? I,
Zach?
I'm not afraid. I've got the courage. I promise. It's
Are
the
you a
internet.
brave
I
boy? Are
swear.
you a brave boy?
I'm a brave boy. I'm a brave boy. I'm worthy of the title. Could you repeat that one more time? My internet chose the worst possible time to betray me.
Okay. You said that Oracle of Ages was your favorite, or sorry, your first Zelda game. What's your favorite Zelda game?
You know what? I'm gonna have to admit, uh, it actually is Breath of the Wild.
Breath of the
It is
Wild?
Breath of the Wild. Yep. I think
Fair
that the
enough.
sheer amount of stuff that you can do in that, um, just the scope of it, it takes sort of like the air of mystery of like the exploring, the doing things, the not knowing where everything is and where you're going of the original Zelda, and sort of faithfully putting that same feeling into like the Switch generation, and it is so fun to play.
Right, because it feels like you're exploring a world again instead of, being taken through, as one Aaron Hansen put it, a tour at Disneyland.
Yep. I'd say that sums it up.
I mean, that's really fair too. I mean, Breath of the Wild was really revolutionary for, breaking the Zelda formula, sort of breaking that rut that Zelda had been in for a while, just kind of hand holding players from going to place and everything. And, to its credit, Breath of the Wild is a great game.
Breath of the Wild is
I could
amazing.
say I could say a few things about the whole, uh, the weapon system, but we can get into that discussion later.
Now, Breath of the Wild is a very respectable choice. While a lot of people, hardcore Zelda fans, may side eye some people for liking Breath of the Wild, you cannot deny that game design wise, and at least Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom is a different conversation for definitely for a different stream.
Oh,
That's an
But even
episode
in
by
that
itself.
regard, Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild, the game design, it holds up for a lot of people. It's very easy to get into. It's very easy to understand. Surprisingly, it is surprisingly easy to understand with how much you can do. And at least in my opinion, for Breath of the Wild, the story was very relatable and easy to understand. While collecting those memories, you get a sense of what's going on uh, in a large scale, but more so in like a smaller scale for who exactly you're saving. So Breath of the Wild is a very respectful choice.
and that's why you're our wisdom guy. Speaking of, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Ken?
About myself, well, as every
Excellent.
I was just talking about OG Zelda fans, how they may side eye Breath of the Wild. I'm not one of them, but I do happen to be an OG Zelda fan. I started my Zelda adventures in the days of the Wind Waker, actually. I never I hadn't gotten to play a Zelda game. I saw the Wind Waker. I saw a friend playing it when I was like, I think 5 or 6, when I was at their friends and they had a GameCube. And then my family got a Wii. And they told me to get Zelda, and I didn't. I actually ended up getting Mario Kart, but my dad apparently was a really big Zelda fan, and he got the new Zelda game that had just come out, and that was Twilight Princess. So my first Zelda game, and to this day, my favorite Zelda game of all time, and his favorite game of all time, is The Legend of Zelda: Twilight Princess. Uh,
So a very
now,
respectable choice too.
Oh, I could talk forever about Twilight Princess and how amazing it is, because it gets a lot of flack at times. Uh, we'll get to why I love Twilight Princess in a second, though, because that is not the only Zelda game I played. I did go back and play The Wind Waker a little bit later. I played Skyward Sword when it first came out. A lot of people had gripes with it, but I was like 12, so I
That's
don't
also
think I
fair.
could understand the gripes. I understand them now. And going back to replay, I definitely was feeling it. But at the time, swinging a sword with the rear remote, didn't care, had a blast. Uh, Hyrule Warriors came out when I was 15, played that. Breath of the Wild came out when I was 17. I actually had a little bit of a harder time getting into that one because it didn't have that, at first, that grandiose kind of start and story and all that. I didn't really understand where it was headed. And then life got in the way. I was 17, 18 by that point. Went to college, got busy, but then I came back to it. I came back to Breath of the Wild in around 2019. And with my new, not really adults, but starting to truly adult eyes, I recognize how great the game was. And I beat that along with Tears of the Kingdom. And then recently, I've been going back and playing a lot of the handheld Zeldas, where I just beat Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks. I know those get some flack too. I really love those games, especially Spirit Tracks. And then currently, I'm playing through A Link to the Past, going through the classics.
Nice, nice. Going back to Breath of the Wild a little bit, what you were saying about where you weren't sure the direction that the game was going whenever you first booted up. I li- I feel that, and I kind of feel like that was sort of Nintendo's intention as well. Because you're kind of like dropped into this world, not knowing what the hell you're doing. Same with Link, who also wakes up from what, a century being
Mhm.
asleep and not knowing where the hell he was or what the hell was going on.
It was definitely an intentional game design, not just from a story aspect, but from all aspects. They wanted it to definitely feel like that open adventure like they had in Zelda 1. It really, like Breath of the Wild, a lot of people does say like it revolutionized open world, but really it just went back to its roots. Zelda 1 is the first true like open world game. It's just from a top down perspective because that's all they had at the time. But it really went back to its roots. It did fit the narrative and immersion. Um, it also just allowed people who aren't crazy into Zelda or at the time weren't crazy into Zelda games or just into games in general. Uh, it was simple. All you had to do first was look around, walk around, and pick stuff up and hit buttons, which is how you start any game. But in this case, you're not fighting or you have a task or you're not thinking too hard. You literally just go out and the game slowly guides you through everything. It eases you in where for me, when I'm like, okay, who am I saving? What's the story? What's the plot? Like when I'm an old fashioned Zelda fan, I'm wondering where all the juice is. But to new Zelda fans or just gamers in general, that's a very easy way to kind of get your way in there. And they kind of needed that to keep people because there were a lot of people at the time who weren't finishing Zelda games or they were getting bored by the beginning just because of that format. Skyward Sword, once you got to that first temple, it was almost challenging to traverse the world because of all the weird doohickeys they had. And this is again going back to like the difference between new players and old players. If you're an old Zelda fan, that was no issue. That was a little too easy. But
It almost felt
uh,
like Nintendo kind of lowered the bar when it came to like entry for the Zelda
mhm.
franchise,
And that
which I,
really helped them out.
yeah, that absolutely did. I mean, you should see how fucking big Breath of the Wild got.
Mm-hmm. And they needed that because not only was Breath of the Wild supposed to not just like reinvent and carry the Zelda series, but that was the only game that came out on the Switch at the time. So
That
they
is
really
also
needed a
very
Had to
game
carry the
that
whole thing.
they had to carry the entire Nintendo. Like people don't really realize that like Zelda Breath of the Wild was not tasked with just carrying the Zelda series and reinventing it. It had to carry a whole console for like a good minute too. Like it was carrying for a while. So it really was like a minutely perfected not just Zelda game, but like game for what it needed to be and what it still is. It is one of the like best well designed games, story wise. I still think it could have probably been handled a little better, but for a first time in that type of because it is like almost a design in its own self, like it's a new version of open world. Like I don't think there was anything else they could have done to perfect it with the time restraint that they had.
Here to that, and I'll drink to it. Zach, what were you gonna say?
I basically was just gonna say what's already been said, that it how long did it carry the Switch?
In a
Was
few
it
months, it was a while. Like,
a few months?
and even when games like
There was
were
a
coming out, like people were still going for Breath of the Wild because it was just that amazing. And the first games that came out on the Switch were really small. I think the next
there was
biggest
one
game.
Switch.
Yeah,
But
now
yeah,
what I
there
mean
was
that's not
five.
selling millions of copies, you know. There was
Oh, of
one two
course not.
Switch, there was they had a few ports, but a lot of people weren't gonna like leave their Wii U for it for those who had one. And that's another discussion in itself. Like not only was it carrying a new console, it had to bring people back from the atrocity that was the Wii U era.
Yeah, you're telling me.
So it really had like a lot of carrying to do, but we didn't get another big Nintendo title for a few months, and that wasn't until like Mario Odyssey or Mario Kart Deluxe. So
The
it was
goat.
carrying for a good few months after the Wii U atrocity, and being the only game up for a little bit.
Fair enough. Fair enough. We should probably move away from the Breath of the Wild talk, or else
Yeah,
we'll fill the entire of
No,
that.
that's
not the whole discussion.
another
Best,
episode, another
best
conversation.
saved for another day.
I guess the last. I know I ramble. I'm gonna be great for a
Oh,
podcast.
it's
But I guess the
fine.
last thing.
You actually covered a lot of the talking points I had in here.
Oh, great. I guess the last thing I can really say about like, at least myself in general, because that's what this was supposed to be about. Um, while I am like a walking Zelda encyclopedia of information, I know just a lot of just stuff about Zelda. I
And
do
that's why you're
write,
the wise guy.
and that's why I'm the wise guy. I have the wise man tag here. I do write, I'd say a generally popular Zelda fan fiction called Couple of the Wild, and its sequel, A Couple of Trials. And that's got around uh, fifth, how much is it now? 550,000 views at this point. Still ongoing, and I will be helping direct and making decisions on the upcoming audiobook or audio play that we're doing. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that is
that's a
also being
little bit about
produced
me.
by the Comic Squad. We have a
It
lot of
is.
a lot of Zelda content coming out.
I started that.
Hey,
You're
Zelda
welcome.
projects.
Ah, well, you can never really say no to too much Zelda, am I right?
No, sir.
Nope.
I mean, look at what we're doing right now. We got the perfect trifecta of Zelda content. We got Zach over here with voicing Link in the Zelda comic dub or Zelda sprite comic dub. We got Ken over here with his audiobook that we're also the audiobook project, you know what I mean. And then we have another Zelda cast. How about that?
Another Zelda cast, third Zelda project. Zelda's
There
another
you
lot to
go.
talk about.
There
You
is a
know,
lot to
we've
talk about. We have many topics we can talk about.
I'm excited for many of these topics.
I'm gonna have a
So
lot to say.
am I, my friend.
I've got a
All
lot
right.
to say on a lot of these. We're gonna need a Tears of the Kingdom podcast on itself. We're gonna need a Twilight Princess podcast on itself. All the games, I guess, is gonna need their own podcast. We're gonna need a
But
lore
yeah, at this
podcast. We
point,
got a
we're
lot.
just gonna. At this point, we're just gonna take an entire episode to talk about each and every single game.
As we should.
We'll
That's
ta-
a really
we'll
smart
talk
idea because
about
they're all that
we'll
deep.
talk about the first Zelda over here, the second Zelda, Link to the Past, yada yada yada. We'll even talk about the CDI games at some point.
Well, that'll be fun. That'll be quite the adventure right there.
And it doesn't just have to be name brand Zelda either. It could be Zelda adjacent.
I mean, Zelda really set a lot of precedents that other properties later used. And it really
Like
can't be
RZ recently.
Oh yeah, RZ, fantastic game. The Breath of the Wild formula kind of created one of the, sort of helped the gameplay loop of one of the most famous Chinese games to come out in recent years. Genshin Impact. So
Genshin Impact. I have a lot to say about that one too.
Oh yeah, that's another episode on its
I knew
own.
immediately what he was talking about. Genshin Impact.
Yeah.
It took me a second, man.
Yeah, but a lot of people still think Breath of the Wild ripped off of Genshin Impact, and that just makes me want to pull my hair out.
No,
Are you kidding me?
People think that, yeah.
Look at the dates.
The other
Look
way
at the dates.
around.
That's all I gotta say.
It hurts my soul.
But yeah, we'll have an entire corner dedicated to Zelda adjacent stuff. We'll call it the Zelda adjacent corner. ZAK. Zach.
Yeah. Okay. You know what?
Logo pops up.
Since I have the least amount of direct Zelda knowledge, it's fair that I'm associated with the adjacent Zelda knowledge.
It works. It works.
It all tracks. It all tracks in spirit. That's my pun for the day.
Oh, ha 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 ha. I'm sorry, we're gonna have to go a different direction with the show.
Yeah.
Zach, thank you for being on the.
Oh no!
Bringing a new one.
Get fired once an episode. Dang it!
Nah. I kid. I jest.
You may be a Link voice, but you might be a little too tall, a little too thick. We need a little short man, skinny man, can somehow lift 3 times his size.
Might be a little too brave.
A little too brave. A little reckless. The difference between recklessness and bravery. Actually,
Oh right, I've completely spaced. I'm supposed to be talking about myself too.
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm surprised we didn't start with you. You were the leader of this whole thing.
Right.
Tell us about yourself. Yeah. Now I'm the interview. Tell us, Mr. Avi, how did you get into Zelda? What is your favorite Zelda? Where are you in this dimension of Zelda podcast?
Are there any more questions in those scribbles?
When I was but a wee bab. You see, my mother. No, but actually, for serious, my mom was a huge Zelda fan while I was growing up. She played the original Zelda back when she was a kid. And then she stuck with it. She stuck with it ever since, I can't remember if she's played A Link to the Past, but I know she played Zelda, Zelda 2, she played Ocarina, Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, Twilight, basically as much as she could, and she stopped at, I believe, Skyward Sword. Probably gonna have to get her on the podcast to get her story on it, to be honest. That woman lives and breathes Zelda, man, let me tell you. But anyhow, I grew up with, basically always having Zelda in the household. My very first Zelda game, to my knowledge, is Ocarina of Time. The first Zelda game,
golden age.
The first Zelda game I ever beat by myself, however, I actually don't know. I can't remember. That's really gonna bother me now.
The first Zelda game we beat, I didn't even consider that. Twilight Princess, I mean, I was young. I didn't beat that by myself. First Zelda, oh wow. First Zelda game you beat by yourself. I think mine was Skyward Sword, which looking back, that's not that great of an accomplishment.
Fair. I mean,
Yeah.
I did originally, or I did eventually. Sorry, not originally. I did eventually play the HD remaster of Skyward Sword, and I mean, I like the fight. I thought it was pretty cool that the lightning strikes your sword and you use it to attack demise. But you know, that's
Oh,
just
see,
me.
that's my wisdom coming in. I'm talking about puzzle wise. Going through the
Oh,
easy
puzzle.
dungeon replies telling you where to go. It's not big of much of an accomplishment saying that's the first Zelda game I beat by myself. Are you
We're on the
thinking about
topic,
what
Zach.
Zelda game you beat now?
Zach,
Me?
what's the first Zelda? I cannot talk. I am so sorry. What's the
Give
first
Avi
Zelda game
time.
you've ever beat by yourself?
Oh, you know what? That's simple. First one I played, Oracle of Ages. I had a
Well,
lot
there
of
you go.
time
That is
between
very
Oracle of
impressive.
Ages. It was hard to get through.
That's a very impressive claim. Beating that as your first
Yeah,
Zelda game, that's top tier.
it's oh, it was tough, and I had plenty of years to try to accomplish that. So don't think that it just happened within the first few months of me trying to play it. It took a couple save files, took a little bit of help from my uncle, uh, to even like progress a little bit, and
The Oracle games
then
are hard.
oh yeah, I know that Oracle of Ages I think is considered the easier one between that and Seasons, but
Oh, Seasons was an absolute bitch to beat.
yeah,
Seasons was based on wisdom, so Seasons was hard puzzle wise, which a lot more people struggle with. A lot of people, when you look at like a vast majority of people who are like, what do you find harder, fighting or puzzles? Most people are going to go for puzzles. And Oracle of Seasons was all about the puzzles. Oracle of Ages was all about battles. There were still
Oh, fair
puzzles,
enough.
obviously, but like that was where if you wanted to play like a game where you had a lot of fighting to do, Oracle of Ages. If you wanted a game where you really wanted to test your mind, Oracle of Seasons.
That's fair. That's
They're
fair.
designed like that. Good job, Capcom. Proud of you guys. That was really smart.
I had to actually look through an entire fucking list of the Zelda games that are currently released, and I finally got it. I know exactly which one I beat for the first time by myself, and it's an odd one. I'll tell you
An
that.
odd one.
oh, do tell.
I expect like
The very,
Tingle's game.
Oh god.
no. We're talking like mainline. The very first Zelda game that I ever beat by myself is Four Swords Adventures.
Ooh.
That's a good one to start with too.
Yeah,
That's challenging too because you did you do it by yourself?
I did do it by myself.
That's hard.
yeah.
You
Yeah,
have to control all
that
four
is
of them.
challenging then.
I
That's a
remember
hard
getting
one.
stuck in the village, but I also remember it being my favorite level.
Is that the GameCube one or the Game Boy one?
That is
I
the
think that was
GameCube one,
GameCube.
yes.
Yeah, that's hard, especially by yourself.
Well, I didn't have the money at the time. I was like, what, fucking 13, 14, something like that?
That's bad. You know, I don't hear a lot of people say that was their first game. A lot of people, because they expected you needed four people to beat it, they skipped over that one. That's impressive.
Need four
They
people.
played the
It's just
they
easier.
played the one on the Game Boy Advance, but the specifically the GameCube one, a lot of people ended up skipping over that one.
I loved it though.
That was great. It's a great game.
There were some
Right.
great levels, like the ones where you have to sneak into the castle and you have to hide under the moat and everything.
Yeah, a lot of people think Wind Waker did the sneaking thing first. No, it was Four Swords. They got it from Four Swords.
Wait a
Four
They
Swords
minute.
is right
they
after Wind
also
Waker.
got for Four
I'm looking
Swords.
at the timeline right now.
I'm pretty sure Four Swords came out first.
Hold
Hold on.
wait,
Yeah,
Four
I think it's
Swords or Four Swords Adventures?
Oh, Four Swords. I'm thinking of Four Swords, the original.
Oh, original
I'm gonna
Four
say Four
Swords.
Swords
Yes.
came out first.
Original
Four
Four
Swords was the
Swords.
one
Yes,
that.
that
Hold
came
on.
out first.
Then wasn't
all
that
I
the one that
can
came out on GameCube?
The one that came out on GameCube was Four Swords Adventures. It's a completely different thing.
all I can say is whenever there's a Vati
Interesting.
episode or any episode
Oh, it
uh
did. I haven't switched.
Ooh.
I just realized all of the first Zelda games we beat, the main villain, or at least the principal villain of each one, at least wasn't technically or Ganondorf. I'm looking at Skyward Sword when I say that, where it wasn't technically that, but none of us beat. So obviously, the deciding factor is apparently whether or not Ganon exists in it, or at least whether or not Ganon exists in it in a completionist state.
When you say existent, are you talking about
Ganon's a fucking
enforcers?
chump.
Wait, what?
Ganon's a fucking chump, and I should know. I voice him.
Uh,
Which
oh,
Ganon are we
riffing on
referring
this.
to? Because I think there was a Ganon in Four Swords, but I think he he was at like, if I remember correctly, he wasn't like there.
Yeah, Ganon
He
was the very last boss that you fight in Four Swords
He
Adventure.
is?
yeah, because
Well,
that
you know
okay, so
what?
was that. Well, the story behind that is Four Swords is, at the time, was the like timeline was, because they were building a timeline. Like, a lot of people think, I actually just watched a video on this. A lot of people think the timeline like came out with Hyrule Historia in 2012, but no, they've been crafting the timeline since the very first Zelda game. You can follow it and the plan um through the manuals. So there's always been a Zelda timeline. They kind of goofed up when um Twilight Princess came out, and they were like, "Oh, we have three," and then they did the timeline split. That was like, the timeline split was their uh solution to it. So the timeline has already been planned. So by that point, Ganon had been defeated by Ganon and Aghanim from A Link to the Past had been defeated. So in Four Swords, the plan was to have this new enemy um, basically resurrect Ganon. Like, that was the whole point of Four Swords. The villains were trying to resurrect Ganon. But
Kind of like
as you're going through, they did that in Zelda 2 as well. And the story behind, like, both, they do it again. They reuse that thing. And every time when you're going through the game, you fuck up their resurrection spell. That's what you're doing. You're screwing up the resurrection. So when Ganon comes back, he's a mindless hulk of a pig. He doesn't have his mind. He doesn't have his like true magical abilities. He is basically a walking zombie. Which is why he's so disappointing. He's not Ganon.
Damn.
He's just Ganon's body flailing around angrily because you just rose his ass from the dead, because you guys botched his resurrection spell.
I love that, not gonna lie.
Yeah, and it's the fact that you do it twice. You botch his resurrection spell in Zelda 2, and then you botch his resurrection spell in Force of Adventures.
I just love the visual of that. Just seeing fucking huge ass Ganon, huge ass pig monster just flailing around. I can't talk. I'm sorry. I'm speaking way too fast.
It's fine. This is only an audio medium based thing. It's not that important.
It's not like people are relying on this.
Just flailing around fucking mindlessly, aimlessly, because somebody woke him up from his nap too early.
Yeah, no, if you go back and read the manual, I think you can find the official in the manual, but if you really just go and look at any guide or review on it, yeah, they botched his resurrection. That's why he didn't say anything. They botched his resurrection.
I'll learn
Which,
something
yeah,
new
I
every
do find
day.
hilarious.
That's why you're our wise guy.
And you know what?
That's why he roars. That's why he's just roaring and stomping around. And it's kind of an easy fight because he really just he's an idiot. He doesn't have a mind.
All powerful idiot. And also thinking back on it, I mean, with that in mind, with me being dumb in mind, all the games we beat did at least in some way, shape, or form have a version of Ganon. Because the Oracle games, obviously, I never beat Oracle of Seasons, but I know if you beat both of them and then you face Twinrova, then you fight Ganon, and then Demise is, the start of the whole cycle.
Yeah, he's the OG
repeating.
Ganon.
Yep. So technically, they all have Ganon, but they also don't have like.
They have Ganon,
not,
but they don't have Dorf.
Yeah, they have half of him. I don't. the Oracle Ages and Seasons Ganon, that might also be a botch redirection. I don't know that. I'd have to look back at that. I have to fact check that. But he actually might also be a botch redirection Ganon. How many times did they pull that? I'm now looking that up.
So many plots could have been avoided if they just waited for him to come back naturally.
Okay, yeah. He was again resurrected improperly in the Oracle games. It was an improper resurrection. So they just keep screwing his resurrection up.
Damn.
They
You know what?
never get his resurrection right.
You know what? If I were Ganon, I'd be pissed off too.
I'd be mad. Yeah, you have done this 3 times and you have somehow failed each and technically, if you want to get meta with it, Demise's resurrection was botched too because Garrigan was trying to unseal and resurrect him, and we also screwed that up. That's why we beat him. Demise was not at full power. We beat his ass before he could fully absorb Zelda. That's why Zelda was still alive at the end. We also screwed his resurrection up too.
No wonder he turned into
this man's full power.
Well, no wonder he turned into a mindless calamity form in Breath of the Wild.
That is just him. That he has his own self to blame for that one. He keeps himself alive with magic. He just needs to let himself go. That is no failed resurrection. That is his Ganondorf being the most stubborn man humanly possible, not realizing it'd be in his benefit to just kick it.
Just keep die and try again later.
I thought that was supposed to be like, he had, the resurrection had been botched so many times that he just gave up on and just decided to be,
If you want my opinion on this, now a lot of people are going to either debate this opinion or they're not going to talk much about it because Tears of the Kingdom really messes us up.
Threw a wrench in all that.
So I'll tell you what people would naturally come to the conclusion on based on what both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom gives you, and then I'm gonna give you my wise guy take on it. So
Cliff Notes
first. Cliff Notes. If you look at Breath of the Wild, you hear, the Calamity Ganon, he's been coming back who knows how many times. The people started picking up on it, and then they try and fight back, and most recently we lost. But the point of that being, he comes back each and every time. We know Urbosa says he used to be a Gerudo. We see stuff on in Zora's Domain about how Ruto was a thing, and really all that to say, it is pointing towards this Ganon being the same one as Ocarina of Time, the same one we killed, and depending on which timeline it is, or if it's a merge, regardless, we killed either in Twilight Princess or Wind Waker. But because he is a sorcerer, he keeps himself alive based on his magic because he is that angry about being killed. That's why it's called malice. And he just keeps coming back over and over and over again in the form of this calamity. That's why he's trying to resurrect himself. His magic is keeping him alive, and he is trying to resurrect himself. So, whereas other games, other people kept botching his resurrection, now he's trying to do it himself, and he's botching his own resurrection.
Literally pulling a Thanos and being like, fine, I'll do it myself.
Yeah, and failing. But that is what Breath of the Wild gave us. And then Tears of the Kingdom comes out, and then we realize people assume, so this is actually what Ganondorf is, and every time the calamity happened was Raru's seal breaking or weakening, which is a fair assumption to come to. Like, you could say, like, oh yeah, Nintendo retconned it, and this is just how it is. That's what a lot of people think. If you want my opinion on it, I would say that, you kind of have to wrap your mind around this. I would go based on original intention. I would say that the Ganon that we see in Breath of the Wild is actually the Ocarina of Time one, specifically because the lore that the Zora Stone tablets give us in Breath of the Wild. They mention Ruto, and then there's also a lot of mentions of Ocarina of Time and Skyward Sword. It was clearly intended, even if it was supposed to be set really far in the past, it was clearly intended to show like, hey, this is still the same guy. He doesn't have a body because he was killed, and he is just continuously trying to come back. Which pulls into question, like, okay, if Ganon technically hasn't quote unquote kicked the body and he's still here, how can there also be a second Ganondorf in Tears of the Kingdom? My explanation to that is you can have two heroes and two Ganondorfs and two Zeldas at the same time, and it's not unheard of. We had two Zeldas we had two Zeldas in Zelda 1 and Zelda 2.
That's
we
right.
had
Zelda 2 was like the one that got
an older Zelda.
Yeah, an older Zelda.
Yep. And then if you look at A Link to the Past and A Link Between Worlds, it is theorized. It's technically not like confirmed by Nintendo, but based on context clues, which is all we have to go on really in Zelda games, like everything is a context clue. They don't confirm really much of anything, except for like in small interviews. But there is an old man that you can train with who has a very, very surprising knowledge on fighting. He's way older, but he's still surprisingly strong. Knows about the Master Sword, so on and so forth.
The Street Pass guy.
Yeah, and he is theorized, at least right now, to be A Link to the Past Link, just super old, which is not uncommon again. We've seen Hylians get very old. You could look at Impa in Breath of the Wild. I know she's a Sheikah, but you could look at Impa in Breath of the Wild. You could look at Nico in Spirit Tracks. He's lived since Wind Waker times. He is the same Nico. People say that old man is Link from A Link to the Past, and the confirmation the quote-unquote confirmation they get on that is when you're running through the credits of A Link Between Worlds, you will get the characters' main themes. So the Zora Queen, you'll get the Zora's theme. Zelda, you'll get Zelda's Lullaby, so on and so forth. The old man surprisingly gets a part in the credits, and the music that plays as he's standing there is the main Zelda theme from A Link to the Past. So it's not uncommon for there to be two Zeldas or two Links, or in this case, what I would argue for Tears of the Kingdom, two Ganondorfs. You've got one Ganondorf who refuses to die and just keeps coming back, and then you have Tears of the Kingdom Ganondorf is the Ganondorf that was there because the Gerudos still have a Gerudo male come every 100 years. He's that Gerudo. Now, that could bring into question, like, why wasn't there a Gerudo male after Link woke up in 100 years? Nintendo's not perfect. We know this. So,
right.
That is what I would give.
What you're saying is Tears of the Kingdom is basically a tale of two Ganondorfs.
Yes.
Or going off of acronyms, TOTK, Tale of Two Kings.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Exactly.
Very nice.
I would argue that the most recent calamity, because they did technically fail and it fucked up the castle, is what gave the Tears of the Kingdom Ganondorf his out. That's what I would argue. Now, a lot of people, and this will probably, I guarantee you this will probably change with time. I've only had that conversation with one other person, and I can get more in detail when we have a stream dedicated to Tears of the Kingdom about it. But that idea, that really thought idea that I had, was not highly accepted. But I also, just with Zelda fans being Zelda fans, right when games come out, I didn't really get the chance to like fully explain it. I got shut down pretty quickly because you see the surface level stuff. Oh, there's a calamity. This guy's been sealed for a while. Then it's the same guy. But if he's the same guy, then why are we hearing about Ruto and all this other Ocarina of Time stuff from Breath of the Wild? You have to kind of think about that stuff. But we'll get into that when we talk about Tears of the Kingdom. I can go way more in depth than I just did. That is what I would argue. I'd argue that.
Yeah, like 50% of this entire episode has just been Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom talk. But I mean, hey, that's what we're here for.
But yeah, and I could get into that discussion talking about using things from, again, because technically we just talked about A Link to the Past and A Link Between Worlds. And Zelda 1 and Zelda 2. So I could bring this back to a whole lot of things. Again, we'll save it for a dedicated podcast to it, but there is the Zelda team. and this goes for all the games, while they are not as detailed as we would like them to be, they are also not stupid.
It's
they
very, very
know
true.
what they it is, except for what, at least me personally, except for what I would argue Tears of the Kingdom, because the story was outsourced. Breath of the Wild and everything back, every detail that is meticulously or that is left unsaid is a meticulous plan left unsaid. And everything that was proven is again meticulously proven in the game. Like they do that for a reason. That is always intentional. They intentionally don't give us all the answers because they want us to figure it out like a puzzle. Again, Tears of the Kingdom
Zelda's
story was
just one
outsourced,
giant
so
puzzle. Come on, man.
it is. Tears of the Kingdom kind of breaks that because the story was outsourced, and they're making decisions that we'll talk about later. But at least excluding, I mean, I guess you still could. But even if I don't think they did it as well, Tears of the Kingdom, I said in an interview, that was the goal. I think they handled that goal not great, but that was still, in any case, the goal. It has always been the goal in Zelda games. So there are some things that you have to put, like the timeline split. That was not just something Hyrule Historia put together. They knew what they were doing with that. And Nintendo, they will make those decisions. So they're not stupid. They know what they're doing. They are making this timeline. They've been building the same timeline since Zelda 1. From Zelda 1 to Zelda 2 to A Link to the Past, it's always been the same. It's been planned. They know what they're doing. This stuff connects.
Definitely. And kudos to the Zelda team.
Kudos to the Zelda team.
Kudos to the Zelda team.
I do believe that is one of the best places that we can leave off at. But before we go, I got a question for y'all. Just kind of going around the room.
Mm-hmm.
What is, or who is rather, your favorite Zelda character?
Oh.
I thought you were going to say your favorite Link or your favorite Zelda. Favorite Zelda character?
Ooh, there's a lot to choose from.
That is
There
a lot.
are.
Oh gosh.
If we were going by, do you have your answer? If you have your answer, go for it.
Look, I will always sing the praises of non-Ganon, non-Ganondorf Zelda villains. So while I'm tempted to say Vati, I'm gonna need a little bit longer to make sure that I'm actually locking that down. So you know, Ken, you go first.
I mean, if you guys want to, we can always like downgrade that to like your favorite Zelda NPC, maybe.
That's the same thing.
Yeah, we're that's
That really just takes Link out of it.
Well, either Link or Zelda or Ganon or I don't know.
Well, no, this is cool. I like this. If I had to choose for like my overall favorite Zelda character, it's between three right now, and that is Breath of the Wild Zelda, because of how, at least in the first game, how well she's written. She was the first like truly three-dimensional Zelda. Very close seconded, which is my second choice, by Skyward Sword Zelda. She was also very three-dimensional. She felt great.
Oh, she was so wholesome.
She was great. People think you need to have like an angry side of a character to make them feel real, but like you don't need them. Which is, again, that's not a shot at Breath of the Wild Zelda. I think she was very real.
She's got some sass, man.
No, she's got sass, and that makes her real. But just because you're not like Zelda Breath of the Wild had a lot going on, which is understandable. That's where she gets a lot of her sass and some of her irritation at the beginning. But you don't need to have that irritation to claim a character is like three-dimensional. A lot of people thought Skyward Sword Zelda was also flat, just because, oh, she's another nice girl. But I'm like, you can have three-dimensional kind characters. Like, they don't need to just be somewhat dickish to be considered three-dimensional. Zelda and Skyward Sword had a lot of... Yeah, Zelda and Skyward... And again, that's not us calling Breath of the Wild Zelda a jerk. She has her moments, but they're understandable moments that make her three-dimensional. I love her for that. But to say that she's three-dimensional and Skyward Sword Zelda is not, is just factually incorrect. Skyward Sword Zelda had a lot going on. She had her own wants. She defended Link. She did get angry, just wasn't at the main character. She was willing to stand up for people. She is a knight. She can fight. Like, to call her not 3-dimensional is just an insult to her. I'd understand if you were calling like Twilight Princess Zelda. As much as it pains my heart because it's Twilight Princess, I'd understand if you called her 2-dimensional because she just wasn't around. But to call Skyward Sword Zelda, to call Skyward Sword Zelda 2-dimensional is just blatantly incorrect. But back to my thing, it's between Breath of the Wild, Zelda, Breath of the Wild, Zelda, Skyward Sword Zelda, and Midna actually. And if I had to choose, it's probably Midna. Midna kind of sort of takes the entire cake. It is really, really hard to beat. When you're talking about Zelda characters that aren't Link, and even if you include Link and Zelda in there, Midna almost landslides everybody. She's fantastic.
You know what?
Midna's great. She is your slaveholder turned like best friend. If that's not a character arc, I don't know what is. I love her.
She is a
great.
Definite ride or die.
She is. I could talk about Midna for hours. I think Midna's my favorite.
Zach, you got one yet?
You know what? First of all, Midna's a fantastic character.
Absolutely.
Like one of the most rounded characters, like, and one of the best like character arcs in an already very serious Zelda game. I am still going to go with Vati for the childish reason of I just think his design is neat. I like going off the cuff.
And for all you, this is just me chiming in because I'm so passionate about Midna. For all you who think we don't like, strong, sassy female characters, I'm pretty sure Midna is like the top, like before Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, Midna is like the top #1 voted character. Like she's always up there, and she is like the sassiest person in the Zelda series. Like it's really hard to beat Midna in her level of sass, and she enslaved you. So
fair enough. I mean, there's a reason why people so many years later have been clamoring to see her again.
Yeah, like, and again, this is a topic for another day. This is when we can talk about like Zelda characters and how they're written. But a lot of people were saying like some people didn't like
wonderful.
Hey, I could do it. Don't doubt me. I could definitely carry that. A lot of people, I remember looking back, you hear people complain that like, oh, you guys don't like Breath of the Wild Zelda, which I don't know where they get that from. I think a lot of people love Breath of the Wild Zelda. I think there were like some few people who didn't like her because she was kind of mean. Or people say that like we don't like Ilia because her intro was kind of wonky in Twilight Princess, but and they say like Ilia, she was the one that took your horse at the beginning of the game. In Twilight Princess. She's the farm girl. A lot of people don't like her.
I guess she is a little 2-dimensional in that regard, but I mean, come on.
The only thing you get from her is, like, for real, is her, like, jacking your horse. Which a lot of people did not appreciate. But you see these, and some people just don't like. I don't really like Ilia's character just because we didn't get enough from her, and all that I remember like crazy from her after playing the game 18 times is she kind of jacked my horse and then we go save her. But you get this thing that like
didn't care because pretty lady.
Yeah, I cared. That was my horse. That was Epona. You took Epona from me. You don't take Epona from me. That's my horse. That's Epona.
You don't mess with a man's horse.
You don't. But a lot of people got this thing that like, oh, if you don't like you can't not like a character if they show some sort of like upsetness. You like, and especially for like female characters, they're like, yeah, if you don't like it, you're like an issue. But I'm like, Midna is a fan favorite. Like a lot of people who don't like like I say, Ilya. I won't say Breath of the Wild Zelda because I feel like a lot of people like Breath of the Wild Zelda. I don't know where this idea that some like a ton of people hate Breath of the Wild Zelda. I've never seen that. But
I
whenever you
think it's
bring up
because of the
like
way she treated Link in that one memory.
no, I get that. I know why some people don't like her, but it's like and again, Twitter is probably not the best place to be, but you hear these people say like how everybody just despises Breath of the Wild Zelda, and I'm like, I don't know where you're getting that from. She's one of the favorites. She is the favorite Zelda, and she
Twitter
has
is
been.
always going to be angry about everything.
They will, yeah. I'm like Breath of the Wild Zelda is like the top favorite Zelda. Like it's almost no comparison. Even before Tears of the Kingdom came out, people love Breath of the Wild Zelda. I don't know where you're getting this like wave. I know some people didn't like her for that, but this wave of like I don't know where this wave of like everybody hates Breath of the Wild Zelda. I don't know where that come from. Everybody loves her. Um, but yeah, to say like, and it's really the reason I'm harping on this so much is they say Zelda fans like the prime claim is Zelda fans don't like sassy female characters. I'm like, Minna is for over like a decade, almost 2 decades, has always been the fan favorite. And again, let me just remind you guys for the third time, she enslaved us. Like, I
Fair
don't
enough.
think that's the issue. Like we should have every right to hate Minna for like half the game. Um, so I don't know. I know it's kind of a random tangent that I went on there, but yeah, I never
Nah,
understood that saying Zelda fans don't like women with like sass when Midna is the Midna, Navi, Tattle. Tattle had a lot of sass. Like a lot of these female characters that are super sassy that are adored by the fan base. I never got that. And Breath of the Wild Zelda, because again, I don't know where this wave of like saying all Zelda fans hate her. We love her. Yeah, that random tangent there, but I never understood that. We love our sassy female character.
yes, we do. Yes, we do. Sing it to the choir, man.
Absolutely.
we love them. Again, Minna, top favorite. Breath of the Wild, top favorite. I've never seen this wave of hate for her. I don't know where that's coming from.
My favorite character is Tingle.
I hope you're memeing.
Nah, I'm fucking joking, but I
I
just
was gonna say, I hope you're memeing.
no.
I'm glad you're joking. Otherwise, me starting to laugh would have been both
This
mean, but
podcast,
also a little deserved.
This podcast would have went for another hour. Deciphering things.
Oh boy.
Shit. As far as like my favorite like character ever when it comes to Zelda, it's probably going to be a little bit of an odd choice. I mean, she's a little two-dimensional as a character, I guess, but I've always really loved Milan from Ocarina of Time.
Oh, I adore Milan.
You know what? That is a fair choice.
I absolutely
But
adore
that also speaks to the fact that I am from the South. Country girls kind of resonate with me.
Understandable. No, Milan's great. I love Milan. I think
She's great.
and
by extension, also Crimea and Romani.
Yes, I think the manga really helped her out, and even more than the manga, Link X Malon fanfiction that really made her popular.
Oh yeah, there are people saying that she's the one who ends up with Link, like in the events between Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess.
I 100% agree with that.
Some people say that. You can even hear her singing at night.
No, yeah, that is like I'd argue, and the reason I hesitated there is because like how much do I want to say that won't ramble again? I can explain that in a different podcast.
Different podcast.
I would just say, yeah, there is a lot of evidence supporting that. It'd be like saying the hero shade is not Ocarina of Time Link, which some people don't think it is, but again, it goes back to that context clues that Nintendo puts in. It's I don't know what to tell you, people who don't believe it. He's Ocarina of Time Link. So
I actually
yeah.
did find a comic not too long ago that had Milan in it, and I really want to dub it, but I don't. I'm gonna have to outsource that to somebody because the voice needs to be right.
If this makes you excited, Malon actually literally appears next a couple of Trials chapter that I'm writing.
Oh,
Oh, please tell me you're joking.
I'm not.
I don't
She
think
is.
I don't
She's
think
going
it
to
picked
be.
up on my fucking mic, but I have gasped.
Yeah,
The
I didn't
wind
hear it.
is out of my lungs.
Well, if you remember, I was talking to Zach about I'm gonna also need. And this is gonna be way later if / when we make it that far. I'm gonna need multiple links because I just did a thing with Twilight Link, and now I'm in Time Link, and yeah, Malon's gonna be in these next 2 chapters, and they will be together.
I love it. I love it.
You can thank the Master Sword for that. I changed the Master Sword trials from because the DLC from Breath of the Wild, you had the Champions Ballad and Master Sword trials. I wrote something for the Champions Ballad, which is fun. Now I'm because it's like I'm using the Champions Ballad and the Master Sword trials as the in between gateway between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. So Link is going to the Master Sword trials, but instead of just writing a ton of floors and stuff, because that'd be very boring, I'm having the sword take him through stuff like this. Almost like a
like
linked universe, but not like, yeah, it's like a linked universe kind of thing, but it's not committing to it in like it's not like a yeah, these are like Twilight Link and Time Link are just characters now. No, they have their chapter or 2 and then they go away. It's still a Breath of the Wild story, but they do appear to give Link the lessons that he needs, and they're more so emotional lessons because they really don't. If any Link does not need training, it's Breath of the Wild. Like, he knows how to fight. We don't need to teach him how to fight. It's more coming to terms with like being a hero and that, hey, you can't save everybody. You can save as many people as you can, but we, as much as we are heroic and we have this responsibility, we are not invincible, or we aren't perfect. Twilight Link explained to him that, like, while being in the Twilight Princess world, he's like, hey, look, I was able to save everybody except for Midna. Midna could not, get rid of her fear, and she broke the mirror of Twilight. Time Link is like, hey, I was able to save everybody, but I couldn't save myself. I was really depressed. I couldn't find Navi, and while I did get a life and stuff, I almost threw it away, and practically did. I'm still kind of planning out how I want that to go, but that's his point. Like, he couldn't save himself because the hero of time story is so tragic. And then Skyward Sword Link, because he'll be next and he'll be the last one. He's going to be like, hey, yeah, I did save everybody, but because I didn't stop gearing him before saving Zelda from her crystal, I kind of doomed everybody else for like eternity. So
that is true.
Everybody's like, yeah, all of us kind of goofed in some way, shape, or form. So all you can do is look at who you did save and keep moving. So with this time chapter, time is gonna, tell us thing like, hey, yeah, I was able to save everybody but myself. Don't let that happen to you. Don't lose yourself to this guilt. And then Malon's going to be there. He's going to be showing his life that he did have, that I'm not going to explicitly say, but it's going to be very hinted that he kind of let go because he got killed. Who knows where? But yeah, all that to say, yeah, Malon is literally appearing in this chapter I'm about to start writing.
That role will be heavily scrutinized. I will tell you that.
I definitely know it will. I'm going to get shot for it, but I'm not a writer who will pander. I can understand. I will take into consideration the fan stuff, which I do, but when it comes to stuff that I'm really hardcore, like, no, I'm pretty sure not only would this work best, but this is what I see in like the timeline and stuff. Because it also plays into the fact
the way
of,
you
like,
want to write it. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, if and when we get to the point where it does get eventually dubbed, or like, we get to that part of the audiobook.
Oh, people are gonna have.
I want that voice fucking perfect.
Oh, you're talking about. I thought you were talking about like people are gonna be mad that I'm writing a Zelda Link story, and for some reason there's Malon Link in there. I was like, yeah, no, people are definitely gonna have things to say. No, I need Malon to be perfect too. I'm very excited for her. And she's gonna have 2 whole chapters.
I'm sorry, what?
So she's gonna have 2 whole chapters. We get 2 like 30-page chapters. So you got 60 pages of Malon.
I will cherish them. But yeah, we should probably end this before we go on another tangent for another hour.
This is going to be a lot of fun. I
Zach,
can already tell. Yes?
how about you bust out your Link voice and give us a CDI quote? Why don't you?
Oh no.
All right. So I guess we're heading out then. So I guess, great. I'll grab my stuff. How's that?
And
Is that
It's
CDI
on
enough?
point.
I love
That's
it.
CDI. That was perfect.
All right.
All right.
And with that, we are out.